The sun glared over Blackwell Luxury Motors as laughter echoed through the courtyard. "I'll give you the Ferrari if you can get it to run." Jonathan Blackwell boomed, pointing at a wrecked red Ferrari lying in the corner like a forgotten monument to pride. His employees chuckled. Customers joined in. Standing quietly beside an old Ford pickup was Walter Johnson, 72 years old. He hadn't come for a challenge, just to pick up his granddaughter, Rebecca, the dealership's receptionist. But when his rusty truck broke down in front of the Billionaire's glass palace, Blackwell saw an opportunity to turn humiliation into entertainment. "Everyone look!" Blackwell shouted, filming on his phone. "This gentleman says he knows cars. Let's see if he can fix this masterpiece." The Ferrari, a 2019 model, was totaled. Bent chassis, blown engine, fried electronics. 5 mechanics had already called it impossible. But when Walter stepped toward it, the laughter grew louder. His hands were callous, his clothes simple. He looked like someone who fixed farm tractors, not supercars. Yet as his eyes moved over the wreckage, something flickered in his expression. Recognition. "May I take a closer look?" Walter asked. Blackwell grinned. "Be my guest. Just don't cut yourself on the metal." Ignoring the laughter, Walter knelt beside the Ferrari, brushing his fingers over the hood with reverence. The cameras zoomed in. Everyone expected a foolish old man to fail, but none saw the quiet confidence in his touch. Because Walter wasn't just a janitor. Those hands had built engines that conquered racetracks. For nearly an hour, the crowd grew. Phones filmed every second. Hashtags appearing online. Hashtag old man mechanic. Hashtag Ferrari impossible. Blackwell's voice boomed over the chatter. 30 minutes in, and he still thinks he can fix it. What determination. Walter said nothing. He methodically disassembled panels, inspected wires, and traced connections. Each movement was deliberate, not guesswork. His calm made some of the smarter spectators uneasy. A salesman shouted, "Hey, old man, my dad's got a bike shop. You'll fit right in after this." The laughter rolled on, cruel and careless. But Walter didn't even look up. He'd learned long ago, dignity speaks louder than words. He kept working, fingers steady, eyes sharp. Every bolt he touched revealed another clue, another piece of truth hiding under the wreck. Blackwell, recording live for his 200,000 followers, mocked him again. "You know what I love most about him? The confidence. Look at that focus, almost touching." 45 minutes passed before Walter finally spoke, voice calm as steel. "Mr. Blackwell, may I ask you a question?" Blackwell laughed mid-broadcast. "Go ahead. Have you ever built something, truly built it, with your own hands?" The laughter faded. Blackwell blinked. "I built an empire," he snapped. Walter shook his head. "No, you bought one." For the first time, silence rippled through the crowd. There was weight in the old man's tone, quiet authority born from decades of mastery. 2 hours in, Walter called for a specific tool. Phillips screwdriver. Number 2, insulated handle. Ryan, the salesman, blinked. I don't know if we have." "Drawer 3 of the red bench," Walter said without looking up. "Second shelf, next to the Torx keys." The room went still. He'd never set foot in this workshop, yet he knew its layout by heart. Something was changing. The arrogance was fading. Even Blackwell's smirk began to tremble. Just then, Rebecca returned from lunch. Seeing the crowd, she pushed forward. Her stomach dropped when she saw her grandfather surrounded by phones and laughter. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Your friend here thinks he can repair Ferrari 5 mechanics. Said it was impossible." Blackwell sneered. Rebecca froze. She knew revealing who Walter truly was might cost her job, but she also knew her grandfather didn't need saving. She stepped back and watched. Walter's movements grew sharper, faster. He accessed Ferrari's main electrical system, his hands tracing each connection like a pianist playing from memory. Then he spoke again, soft but firm. "This engine wasn't destroyed in an accident," he said. "It was sabotaged." The word hit like a spark. People murmured. Blackwell laughed nervously. "Sabotage? Please, Police investigated that wreck. Yes, Walter replied, but they didn't know where to look. He pointed to a wire. This was cut, then burned to mimic overheating. Then to a twisted metal part. And these marks made when someone forced a manual brake. Even the untrained eyes could see it now. The damage wasn't natural. It was deliberate. Blackwell's face tensed. You can't prove that. Walter smiled faintly. Actually, I can. Every engine has a signature, and I know this one better than anyone. Rebecca's breath caught. She knew that voice, that tone. Her grandfather wasn't just a mechanic. He was the man who had designed this engine. Walter Johnson, former chief engineer at Ferrari Maranello, had built some of the most powerful engines in the world, and the one in front of him was his creation. He straightened up, meeting Blackwell's eyes. Tell me, sir, how much did you claim from the insurance for this Ferrari? Color drained from Blackwell's face. How could this old man know about that? Because Walter wasn't just fixing an engine. He was exposing a crime. As he removed the final damage part, Walter said quietly, when you built machines your whole life, you learned that every flaw tells a story. Then he whispered the words that froze every camera in place. I designed this engine. In Maranello, March 2019, he lifted a small metal plate. Serial number F209, WJ447. The initials stand for Walter Johnson. The crowd gasped. Silence crushed the courtyard. Impossible, Ryan muttered. Walter's calm voice cut through the air. Would you like to explain, Mr. Blackwell, how a fail-safe engine I personally designed was destroyed in the exact 3 ways that would yield the largest insurance payout? Rebecca's eyes widened. Her grandfather hadn't come to fix a car. He'd come to uncover the truth, and he had just done it, piece by piece, with the precision of a master. Silence, the kind that hums louder than noise. Dozens of phones kept recording, but no one dared breathe. Walter stood tall, wiping the grease from his hands. The engraved serial plate gleamed faintly in the light, his initials unmistakable. Jonathan Blackwell's confident grin had vanished. Why, you're lying, he stammered. That plate could have been... Walter interrupted softly. Stamped by the Maranello plant. Every prototype bore the engineer's mark. Mine. He turned the plate so everyone could see the faint letters. WJ. The crowd buzzed. The old man everyone had mocked wasn't a janitor. He was one of the engineers who had built the Ferrari engine they all worshipped. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. Her grandfather, the man who once fixed school buses to pay the rent, had just silenced a millionaire with nothing but truth and patience. Blackwell tried to recover his tone. Even if that's true, what does it prove? Walter's gaze didn't waver. It proves that this wreck was no accident, he said calmly. And I think you knew that. He motioned toward the crowd. This car didn't crash because of driver error. The telemetry chip, which, by the way, is missing, would have shown the moment of sabotage. Someone removed it before the wreck was reported. The crowd turned toward Blackwell. A man at the back whispered, Didn't he get, like, $2 million from the insurance? That was it. The spark. The air shifted. Blackwell's PR manager rushed forward. Turn those cameras off. Now! But it was too late. The live stream was still running. Tens of thousands were already watching. Walter picked up the small black box he'd found hidden near the firewall. Except, he said, raising it slightly, you didn't remove all the telemetry. Gasps rippled through the room. The black box, the digital heart of the Ferrari, had survived. The revelation. By evening, the police were at the dealership. Officers cordoned off the area as investigators examined the car. The footage had gone viral. Every major news outlet wanted to know who the old Ferrari mechanic was. Walter gave his statement quietly, never once raising his voice. When asked why he stepped in at all, he simply said, because truth deserves a witness. Blackwell, pale and sweating, tried to argue with the officers. This is absurd. He's trying to frame me. But the telemetry told another story, one of deliberate brake interference, timed electrical shorting, and a stage crash. The insurance company confirmed it within hours. The accident had been falsified. Jonathan Blackwell had orchestrated the whole thing to collect millions. The man who mocked a mechanic now found himself handcuffed under a dozen flashing cameras. Rebecca watched in disbelief as they led her boss away. The same people who'd laughed at her grandfather now filmed him like a hero. The world learns his name. That night, Walter went home in silence. His old truck still wouldn't start, so Rebecca drove. When they reached the small farmhouse on the edge of town, he sat quietly for a moment before saying, "I didn't mean to embarrass anyone, but when you see wrong and stay quiet, you become part of it." Rebecca squeezed his hand. "You did the right thing." By morning, the internet had already crowned him the Ferrari grandfather. Clips of him exposing Blackwell had millions of views. People around the world were asking the same question: who is Walter Johnson? News anchors told his story. Once an engineer at Ferrari, he had left the industry after his wife's passing, raising his granddaughter alone. He'd lived simply ever since, fixing engines and teaching local kids about mechanics in his garage. But now his quiet life was gone. The call from Italy. A week later, Rebecca handed him the phone, eyes wide. "Grandpa's from Maranello." He hesitated, then answered. "Mr. Johnson," said a warm Italian voice, "this is Carlo Bianchi, director of Ferrari Engineering. We saw what you did. The entire company did." Walter froze. Carlo continued, "You built the heart of one of our greatest engines, and you defended its integrity like only its creator could. Ferrari would be honored if you'd return, as a consultant or even just to visit." Walter smiled faintly. "I'm an old man, Carlo." The voice chuckled. "Then let us honor an old man who never stopped believing in his work." Rebecca's eyes sparkled with pride. The return. A month later, Walter stood once again in the Maranello workshop. The smell of oil and steel filled the air, the same as it had 40 years ago. Engineers surrounded him, eager to learn from the legend who had once walked these floors. One young apprentice asked, "Sir, how did you know the car was sabotaged?" Walter smiled. "Engines are like people. If you listen carefully, you can tell when they've been hurt and when someone tried to hide it." The room went silent, his words echoing to the glass walls of the Ferrari factory. He spent weeks teaching, not just about torque or timing belts, but about pride, patience, and purpose. When he returned home, he didn't bring fame or fortune, just peace. The lesson comes full circle. Back in his small hometown, life resumed its rhythm. Rebecca opened a small workshop under a new name, WJ Motors, built with honor. Kids from the neighborhood came by to watch the old man work. He never turned them away. One day, a boy pointed to a red Ferrari parked outside, restored, gleaming, gifted by Ferrari themselves. "Did you really fix that, Mr. Johnson?" Walter chuckled. "No, son, I just listened." The boy tilted his head. "Listened?" To what it was trying to tell me. Months later, a knock on the door. It was early morning when someone knocked. Rebecca opened the door and froze. Standing there was a young man in a crisp suit, nervous but sincere. "Mr. Johnson?" he asked softly. "My name's Adam. My father was Jonathan Blackwell." Walter's hands tightened slightly on his coffee mug. Adam continued, "He's in prison now. I came because I wanted to apologize for everything, for what he did to you." Walter studied the young man's face, remorseful, humble. After a pause, he said, "Son, the best apology is what you do next." Adam nodded. "That's why I'm here. I sold the dealership. I want to start something new, something honest. And I was hoping you'd teach me how to build engines." For the first time in a long while, Walter's eyes softened. "Engines I can teach," he said. "Integrity, that one you'll have to build yourself." Adam smiled faintly. "Then I guess I'd better start learning." The final drive. Months later, under the open sunset, Walter sat behind the wheel of his restored Ferrari, the same one that had once been broken and mocked. Beside him sat Rebecca, laughing softly as the engine purred like a heartbeat. They drove along the coast road, the golden light washing over them. Rebecca turned to him. "Grandpa, do you ever miss the old days?" He smiled, eyes on the horizon. No, he said. The old days made these new ones possible. The camera would zoom out here. The Ferrari gliding along the road. The man who once swept floors now remembered as the one who restored honor. And as the music swells, Walter's voice echoes one last time. Doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a CEO. What matters is what you build when no one's watching. Because one day the world will see. Fade to black. Clap or board subscribe for more stories that prove heart, not status, defines greatness.